Good morning and welcome to this Nedbank Commercial Banking and Moneyweb webinar and discussion. We're going to look at the fuel franchising and agriculture sectors, and especially the levels of empowerment within those sectors. Both are absolutely critical in the South African economy and in the fuel sector, which is highly regulated. Unfortunately, too few black entrepreneurs are successful within the retail space. Nedbank has developed a new financing and partnership model that has improved success levels significantly, and today we will hear exactly how that model works and more importantly why it works. We're also going to look at empowerment in the agriculture sector. Nedbank recently partnered with a company called SA Pals, which is a very interesting company and organization. It works at ground level and it pairs emerging farmers with commercial farmers, and that model has also proven to be very successful. I have two guests to discuss these topics. Prithivan, Pillay, he's head of client value proposition at Nedbank Commercial Banking. Thank you so much for your time
Pleasure.
This morning. And Cobus, he is head of client value proposition for the agriculture sector, also with Nedbank Commercial Banking. Good morning and thanks for your participation today.
Thank you, Rai.
Prithivan, let's start with the fuel sector. It is a very important sector for us, but empowerment has been lacking. Just tell us exactly, set the scene. What is the current status of empowerment within the sector?
Well, I think we have to take a couple of steps back. So, in the 1990s, government actually tried to implement what they call a white paper for the fuel sector. And by that, they wanted to change the ownership of the fuel environment to be more representative of the demographics of the country. So that was fine. It was a nice call it scheme that they came up with. But the problem was identifying the correct candidates to run successful businesses. We then, as a Nedbank, we tried to assist. However, over time, what we established is there were certain gaps. And those gaps were, in terms of identifying the candidate, but then the successful ownership and running of their business after they take over. So the big issue for us as a bank was, how do we close those gaps? What do we need to do? And in order for us to actually put together a proposition for that, we had to understand what's the nuances of the industry. What's the pain points? What's causing this particular solution in terms of transformation to be stalled? And by us doing that, we engage with various stakeholders, government, the oil companies, the franchisees themselves. We actually engage with individuals that own service stations. And we ask them, if someone has to take over your site, what would you want to have in place, or what do you think they should have in place to ensure that they run a successful business? We took all of those learnings. It wasn't overnight. It took a good couple of years. But we've come up with, I think, a very sustainable and viable solution for the industry.
What were those challenges facing those prospective franchisees or entrepreneurs?
Having cash. So,
is that not where the bank comes in?
The bank does come in over here, but just remember, it's important in terms of when someone buys any business, you need to put your own money down in order to ensure that the viability of the business is of such a nature that it doesn't fail. But similarly, you need to have money almost as a kitty to inject in the event of difficult times. We've all been through COVID. COVID, I still say 2020, was that a year, or is it 2019, 2021? So with COVID, it just took it to a totally different playing field in terms of the banks can assist, but the clients need to have something else to inject. So having cash or money to inject is important, but then the support, call it pre-ownership and post-ownership, that is extremely important in terms of someone that's coming into the business for the first time. In the fuel sector, someone like me from corporate that's going into the fuel sector, I work technically a 8 to 5 day, but in fuel, something happens that 2 o'clock in the morning, cold winter's night, okay, we don't have snow in the country, in most places, but if there's an issue on your site, you have to wake up, you have to go, you have to sort it out. If one of your pump attendant fills the incorrect fuel into the car, diesel, you put petrol, that's a problem. But it's those things that you have to be able to engage. So the post-ownership of the station is extremely important. And that was a big gap that we identified as well in terms of how do we as a bank, I mean, we're a bank, we're here to assist individuals in getting the proper financing, you know, assisting them with working capital and ensuring their business does have other value adds, which I'll talk about later. But that's what we do. But the post-ownership, that was a gap. I mean, the oil companies, they don't do as much in terms of hand-holding. And we then went on a journey to try and identify how do we close that gap.
But I've seen a statistic that 4 out of every 5 small businesses, and the service station is a small business, so some of them may be slightly bigger, but it's still a business that will grow. 4 out of 5 fail within the first 5 years. So obviously you provide funding, you take risk. Is that why you actually get involved in the post-financing part of that business to assist that entrepreneur to be successful? That's not really the responsibility of the bank, is it?
Once upon a time, you could say that. I think this day and age, it is our responsibility, you know, be it to support a transformation and lowering the barriers of entry. But the one thing we do not want to do is just finance a person or someone for 6 months. And in 6 months' time, the business is in trouble, it closes, and the person, their livelihoods, their family, their staff, everyone is impacted. So we have taken it upon ourselves to identify the post-ownership support. What does that mean, and you know, what do we as a bank need to do? Now, we cannot do that because we are a bank. So what we've done is we've actually identified a strategic partner in the sector, similar to Cobus that will talk about SA Pals. We've got a partner called Petrol Connect, and Petrol Connect does that. So they do the pre. So they actually send individuals on this program that identifies whether you are someone that fits the profile of waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go and sort out your problem. You know, the whole administrative business acumen.
A mentoring type of mentoring approach.
But then once they take ownership, the program actually gets a bit more intense, or it evolves into almost hand-holding, where they have systems in place that can help the individual on a daily basis with stock control, you know, fuel drops, issues that they identify pre a problem. And the importance of that cannot be understated in terms of stock that somehow tends to walk out your front door. You know, if you do not have proper controls in place, before you know it, instead of 1 packet of chips, it could be 10 boxes of chips. So a monitoring of that is extremely important, and that's where Petrol Connect can assist, and they do assist. So we said, well, that's ideal for us. You know, it's another tick in our box in terms of ensuring that these businesses are viable, they're sustainable, and more importantly, for the individual that's buying it, it is sustainable going forward.
How much more successful is it after you've implemented this model?
Extremely. You know, if I just have to say, over the last 3 years, we've assisted close to 40 individuals own service stations, and that's been extremely well received in the industry in terms of how are we doing it. So we're not just coming there, and I'll say, we're not just coming there as a bank to say we will give you the funding. Here it is, you know, open up your account with us and everything's going to be well. We're saying, as a bank, we come in here, we're ensuring that we firstly engage with the oil company. We have very intense meetings with them, actually on a monthly basis, together with the clients, to ensure that if there's any issues that come up, we are on top of it, and we can then, as a bank, put in steps to ensure that we address those issues. And that's something that has worked extremely well, because we are working together with all parties involved, all stakeholders, to ensure that the business is profitable. And I think that's one of the key that we do, is working with the oil company, but also with our client, who is the franchisee.
But I would imagine the oil companies should take more responsibility to ensure that their franchisees are successful, because I would imagine if you run a successful fuel station or franchise, it would also translate in quality of customer service and the like. What is the role of the oil company in all of this? Because you seem to be doing what they should be doing.
So oil company, firstly, is to ensure that there's fuel in the tanks. Okay, so they are the supply chain, and as we all know, I think fuel is becoming one of the biggest grudge purchases for anyone nowadays, with the price of fuel going up. But the oil company, they ensure that part of it is done. They obviously look after the whole logistics, etc. I can be as bold to say, I think in the past it was that. But with the engagement that we are now having with the various oil brands, it is part of their almost agreement with us that they will do more. Because what's important to understand is we cannot do this on our own. We have to have the support of the oil company. Together with us as Nedbank, we can offer our support. The franchisee, they need to come to the party, and then we got this in Petrol Connect. So, it's almost a partnership, and it's not almost, it is a partnership between all these stakeholders that are working together. So the oil companies, just to answer your question, they have come to the party, to put it very loosely. They have come to the party to assist and to, I think, assist us as a bank as well, if we identify any distress that's coming down the line.
Interesting model. Cobus, let's talk about the agriculture sector. Empowerment and land reform has always been a political aspect of it. But you've partnered with a company called SA Pals. It's a ground level company or an organization which provides some guidance and excellent, offers an excellent model to try and improve the success of emerging farmers within the sector. Just tell us about SA Pals. What do they do, and why are they more successful than many other organizations?
They actually started in 2015, around about 2015, and it's a private initiative of farmers. So they currently based in the Western Cape, Ceres in the Western Cape, and farmers actually came together and said, let's do something different in terms of land reform. Let's come together. There's a lot of talk about, a lot of talk on land reform, but not a lot is done. So they came together and said, let's identify a new initiative. What do we do differently? How do we approach this land reform differently? So that's where they actually started, and that's where they formed. And their basis is to identify farmers, black and white, that want to farm together in partnership, but then also is to provide them with training, to provide and actually put the agreements and the structures together for mentorship, also to structure the partnership, and they also provide that legal support at the end of the day to a new company. And then also they support with access to markets. They also support them to engage with government, specifically on water licenses. And all that total package is what they provide to a farming group or to a new company at the end of the day. Let's call it like a partnership. And I think that's where the strength at this stage, and we see SA Pals as really as a very good solution, especially for land reform and as actually inclusive agriculture, as I like to call it.
You've, or Nedbank has partnered with SA Pals. What does that partnership entail?
I was privileged to attend the launch of Mpumalanga Pulse in Nelspruit, and when I attended the launch and I listened to the speakers and their model and the way that they operate, I actually said we need to talk to this company. This company seems like they are on the ball of land reform. So we arranged a few meetings with SA Pals. We also went to visit SA Pals in the Western Cape. And when we visited them and had discussions and they explained their model, I actually realized this is a company that we need to partner with. This is a partnership we need and want So we had a discussion with SFLs and said, we eager to participate, we eager to partner with you. How's your capacity? What's your capacity like? Can you operate nationally? And they said, well, they will give it their best shot, but there's some capacity strain that they do have. And we said, okay, you know, give us a detail. What's a detail in terms of your capacity? And they gave us the detail. We did our homework, did our investigation, and at the end of the day, we said, okay, we will provide you with enterprise development funding of 7 million for the next 3 years to support your capacity building, to make sure that you've got the right systems and processes in place, make sure that you appoint the relevant people and build your strength of your staff, and then also to grow to other provinces as well. As you know, they're based in the Western Cape, but also operate in Free State, Manuti Pulse, and then also in Mpumalanga, called Mpumalanga Pulse. And we said, okay, how do we grow to other provinces as well? And we said, right, through this enterprise development funding, you know, that will assist to grow to other provinces as well. Included in the 7 million is a 1 million funding that we provide, and that is purely for training of farmers. And this 7 million funding that we provide is a non-repayable funding. So it's a grant funding that we provide to SFLs, and then all agreements were signed, and then at Nampo Cape in September we announced this a cooperation agreement that we call it, / partnership.
So the idea is you get a group of farmers together, they buy into this concept, and then they identify farmers and they assist those farmers and provide guidance and mentorship to try and ensure their success. Of course, those farmers would need finance, and that's where your involvement comes in.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's an interesting model, and it's dependent on farmers. And what is the acceptance by commercial farmers been of this model?
I think my experience at this stage, Ryk, is really positive. I think there's many commercial farmers and white farmers that want to go into partnerships with black farmers, and be it their own staff or own people working for them, maybe people working for many years and they want to pull them into the business. But then there's many black farmers that want to go into partnership with white farmers as well. And that we see and that we experience, and there's really a hunger for a good structure, a good process, a good solution to really put these structures together. And I think that's exactly what SFLs are doing well. They've got the recipe how to do it, and like you said, to put the structure together, to bring the people together, then to put up the agreements, who's responsible for what. When you go into a partnership, it's important to understand who's responsible for what. If we talk about training, there need to be a training program. What training do the people need to go through? Mentorship, there need to be a mentorship agreement. If you've got a farmer that supports a black farmer, a white farmer, there need to be a mentorship agreement. What needs to be done? When do you say, I'm mentoring you and it's doing well, it's adding value? So that needs to be in place. Your new company need to be structured. It need to be the legal work, need to be correct. Not when it goes well, when it goes wrong as well. And then that whole support with access to markets, discussions with government, is so crucial. But then, and I do almost like call that a non-financial part. But then you need to always provide financial support as well. And that's where, in our partnership, our financial support that we can provide through a differentiated credit approach, a differentiated pricing approach, what we can do differently. Then we combine it with a non-financial support that SFLs can provide. And I see it as a good solution.
Yeah, there's definitely a common theme. You know, you obviously, you're a bank, you want to provide finance, but you also want to ensure that your clients are successful, agriculture sector as well as the fuel franchise sector. Is this a new approach, or is it also applied in other sectors as well? You know, I can think of other franchise niches Is that the model going forward to provide the finance, but also to assist those entrepreneurs to be successful through practical external partnerships?
If I can go on this one.
Yeah.
I'll go and then you can go.
Yeah.
So I think on the back of the success that we've had with Petrol Connect and how we've identified it, and to Cobus's point, it's not doing these deals as business as usual. It's applying differentiated credit policies. How do we do things differently? Do we extend the term? Do we subsidize the interest, special pricing, reduced pricing, all of those things from a financial perspective to make the deals successful. Now, due to the fact that this has worked, we have then started to say, well, if it's working in franchising and agriculture, it's almost a cut and paste exercise, but the key thing is to identify those strategic partners. I mean, you talk about SAPLs, we talk about Petrol Connect. In other sectors, manufacturing, professional, anything, we are identifying those key stakeholders in the sector.
Yeah.
Like myself and Prithivan work very close together, and when they launched Petrol Connect and the partnership with Petrol Connect and the discussion they had there, just resonated with me. So, at some stage I had a discussion with Prithivan and said, Prithivan, explain to me this Petrol Connect partnership that you reached. How did you put it together, and what did you look for, and what did you, in terms of changing credit policies, etc., what did you apply there, and what changes did you implement? So when Prithivan explained the concept of Petrol Connect to me, I said, well, I'm looking for a Petrol Connect in agriculture. And when we started to engage with SAPLs and having the discussions, as we were having this discussions, I realized, but this is my Petrol Connect.
Yeah.
So actually, while we were meeting with the clients with SAPLs, actually our executive head for strategy and new business development, I actually looked to him and said, but this is Petrol Connect. And when we started to explain the concept to SAPLs, I immediately see that connection with them, and they realize, but this is what they're looking for, and we realize this is what we're looking for, and I think it's the best partnership possible.
Now you need to have really specialists in those different fields, because the cash flow models are different within those industries, the financing models, and also the predictability of the future, and it's an interesting model, and I really think it's going beyond what banks should do, and I think this is what South Africa also needs to ensure that our entrepreneurs are more successful, because that's the core of our economy. I've received a few questions related to the fuel sector. Prithivan, who can apply for finance to go and open a fuel franchise? Do you want an experienced entrepreneur, or can it be somebody who's really, really keen and bright but doesn't have the experience?
For me, everything comes down to one word: attitude. Attitude is the most important thing. You can have qualification, which is important. You can have a business acumen, but if you do not have the correct attitude, I think it doesn't matter what you try in life, you will fail. But to answer it from a fuel company perspective, there's obviously a process that needs to be followed. Anyone can apply. The oil companies themselves will assess, they have their own qualifying criteria. There is a push for transformation. So, I mean, as per the BE codes, there's preference given to certain candidates as per race itself, but anyone can apply.
How many opportunities are there in this sector?
If I look at it, close to maybe 7,000 odd service stations. Now, when I say 7,000, I'm also talking about what was previously called white sites. So, the outlying areas. We've changed the terminology. We now call it emerging fuel brands, EFBs. So in total, if you exclude the EFBs with maybe 5,000 odd sites.
So there are many opportunities.
30% less than that is owned by BE.
Yeah, okay.
So,
and if you want to get involved, how much cash do you need to have in your own pocket to start to get the ball rolling?
I'll say you should have about 20 to 30% cash contribution.
And typically, what would a franchise cost?
Costing anything from, say, 5 to 10 million.
Okay.
So 10 million, you need to have about 3 million cash.
Now, that's a very high barrier of entry.
It is a high barrier of entry, but I think to my earlier point, this industry is not easy. It is impacted by global factors. War in Ukraine, China supply, demand, all of those things. So it's a sector which is impacted by external factors more than, in my opinion, most other sectors. So if something goes wrong, go back to the point, COVID, people not driving as much today, you need to be able to put something back into the business. We as a bank, we're here to assist. We try and identify, as I mentioned earlier as well, distress that's coming in. And by identifying it, what we do is we engage, we're constantly engaging with the market. We're engaging with the oil companies. We're engaging with our client to find out, what have you seen? What's the trends? What's happening? Is electric vehicles going to have an impact on the fuel sector in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? So those are things that we are also planning for the future in terms of what would the future of a service station look like, and how do we need to evolve our value proposition to ensure that we have the proper structures and solutions in place to assist these individuals going forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think it's probably a discussion for another day, the future of filling stations in South Africa. Cobus, interesting question. You've been talking a lot about the role of commercial farmers and SA PALs, but what about emerging farmers who want to get involved? Is there a process they need to follow to also hook up with this initiative?
Right, yeah. Interesting you mentioned emerging farmers, and I like to call all farmers commercial farmers. If you're farming and you're producing a surplus for the market, I see it as a commercial farmer. If you look at in the dictionary, and I did, if you look at emerging, it says it's almost like a farmer that's starting to emerge, and I see emerging farmers as commercial rather. They're already farming. And if you look at, and I rather call them small commercial farmers and large commercial farmers. So this initiative and this partnership is definitely open to all farmers. And I think it's a solution to all farmers, small farmers, large farmers. The concept of creating a partnership, I think it also definitely talks to a small farmer, the opportunity to go into a partnership and then also to partner maybe with a larger farmer, getting that experience, mentorship and access to markets especially. If you look at agriculture, we provide agricultural solutions through our retail sector as well as through Nedbank Commercial Banking. So it talks to the total agricultural sector. And I think it will definitely, most definitely, talk to the need of small commercial farmers. How do I grow? How do I partner to really grow my business at the end of the day? And it's not only about access to land, it's about access to knowledge, access to markets, access to experience. And because that post-finance support that you need to provide is more crucial sometimes than the financial solution. Because providing funding is only one of the ticks of agriculture. You need to provide the full solution. And this solution is almost more important for a small farmer, because you need to be there for a small farmer when it goes good as well as when it goes bad. And it usually goes bad, especially in agriculture, if you look at the climate and all the conditions that we have. But when it goes good and surplus funds are produced, how do I use my funds for the future? How do I invest to make sure that I grow my business and look out for my future?
Another question, does the finance include the investment or the procurement of the farm, or only on the operational side post the farmer takes ownership of the farm?
It's a total package, right? It's really about land reform, and it's about giving people access to land. So it's to provide that funding for the purchase of land, and then also to provide that funding for working capital, but also for capex and machinery equipment And also we want to extend it in terms of sustainability. How do you make sure that these farming operations are sustainable, looking at renewable energy, water solutions, soil health, biodiversity, etc.
And the agricultural supply chain is very, very long. Do you also offer guidance on, for example, access to markets? Because that is critical. It doesn't help if you produce the best products in the world if you can't sell it, and that is critical as well. Do you offer services or assistance for example, to get access to markets?
That's exactly what we want to do through the partnership. So that partnership will provide that support in terms of access to markets, but nothing actually stops us to extend this partnership to the value chain as well, and pull in some of the value chain into this partnership to say, but be part of a solution. Here we've got a world-class solution in terms of putting a structure, a partnership together, providing financial and non-financial solutions, access to markets, but how do we make sure that farmers really have access to those markets? And I think the solution might be to pull in the rest of the value chain, retailers, to say, be part of the solution. You are also part of this value chain at the end of the day. Come to this party, and I think that will happen.
Gentlemen, time is not on our side, but any last comments from you, Prithivan?
Yeah, I think with what we've seen in the sector over the last 2-3 years, it's been difficult. We are, as a bank, we are working very close with our clients. We're working very close with the industry to try and ensure that going forward it is still sustainable. But as a bank, we're here to support the fuel sector into the future.
Cobus?
Right, I'd like to say, the future of agriculture is already here. So the decisions that we make now will actually determine the future of agriculture. And I see transformation or inclusive agriculture as a very important part of agriculture. And we need to make sure that we've got a real solution in place. So I definitely would like to invite farmers to contact Nedbank Commercial Banking, talk to us about this partnership, also to reach out to SAPLs and find out what their solution is all about, what their model is all about, and let's do this at the end of the day.
Cobus, thank you so much for your participation. Prithivan, thank you so much. I think this is an excellent initiative. I'm a passionate supporter of successful entrepreneurship because I still believe that is the key to solve South Africa's problems. Because the moment you have entrepreneurs that are successful, you see job creation, you see social development, and I think these type of projects will play a significant role to achieve that. So congratulations and all of the best with these initiatives.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the end of this webinar. If there are any further questions, contact Nedbank Commercial Banking, and I'm sure they will jump at the opportunity to answer those questions. Thank you for joining.